It was crazy. You know what this fight reminded me of, man? You gonna laugh. Him losing this fight is right up there with Pat Barry and LeVar Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is about to be a quick recap of UFC Fight Night 216, Cannonier versus Strickland. Let's start the main event, actually.
Yeah.
Man, the first thing is, I noticed that Strickland was coming out and he was speaking out against the judges. We got this article here on SureDog that says, after close loss, Strickland says judges don't know how to can do their job. Dude, the fight was so close.
I agree with Sean because the same way he lost his fight is the same way he beat Jack Hermanson. He was able to outstrike Jared from the outside, but Jared was able to land leg kicks. So the fight almost went exactly how the Jack Hermanson fight went. He ended up winning that fight but losing this one.
Hey, can you pull up the statistics for that fight? Who had the significant strikes?
Strickland landed 152 significant strikes. Jared landed 141.
It was close, but obviously Jared had more power.
He had more power, but a lot of those came from the legs, man. And I mean, that's debatable on how much do the leg kicks weigh, but
even with those leg kicks, every time he kicked Sean's legs did wobble. It was clear as day. It wasn't like a regular leg kick where some people throw them and people just kind of eat the leg kicks and keep going. Every single time he hit Sean with a leg kick, it was very impactful.
I think the thing is, if you look at their body language after the fight, I think Jared looked more so like he had lost, and I think Sean looked more so like he had won.
No, I don't agree with that, man, because they both looked like it was up in the air. In fact, Jared was actually looking like it's a toss-up. It is what it is. And then after the fight, he said he thought he won 3-2. But I think that maybe by the slightest of margins, Jared won. I don't think it was nothing crazy. It wasn't a robbery. It was just a close fight, man. It was just a close fight, but I will say this. Sean, he wasn't really active in the first 2 rounds. The first 2 rounds, Sean barely threw anything. And I think it was because he knew Jared was going to be looking for the big power punch. And with Sean coming off of a knockout loss, he had to be very careful and make sure he didn't get hit with anything big. And I don't think that Jared landed a big punch until like the 3rd round. But at that point, you was already up 2 rounds. This reminded me of Josh Emmett and Calvin Kattar.
I don't think so, because in the 2nd round, Sean actually outstruck Jared. And actually, he threw more significant strikes. He was only 28 out of 73.
But you got to realize he was throwing pure jabs. That's the only thing. He was throwing pure jabs. I was looking at his Twitter account, and everybody kept saying the same thing. They kept calling him a jab merchant. I guess it means when you spamming the jab. He only threw a jab. Even if you look at those numbers and say he threw more, how many were hooks? How many were uppercuts? How many were head kicks? How many were anything, any type of power shot? It was nothing but jabs. Even the ones that landed, they weren't landing like clean. They were just kind of like touching him. And Jared had his hands up the whole time. You know how his defense is. So it's like you threw one punch a majority of the fight, and Jared's hands were always up the entire time. And then people said that he hurt Jared a few times. You go back and look at the replay when they showed him in slow motion, he never hurt him. Jared was switching from southpaw to orthodox. And then at one point, Sean threw a right hand when Jared was going from southpaw to back to orthodox. And then Jared's feet crossed. And you look at the replay, and the punch never landed on his face. So I'm like, man, it was just a close fight. Yeah. And it just seemed like Jared punches had more pop. You can't sit back and throw a million jabs and nothing else, and you backing up the whole time.
But that's what Jared did. Jared threw leg kicks, though. How is that different from the jabs? If anything, spamming, that's leg kicks.
No, the difference is every time Jared threw a leg kick, it was making Sean's knees touch. And then Sean also had to be worried because he knew the big power punch was coming.
But when do we see Jared fight like this, though, man? Jared's a knockout artist.
He beat Anderson Silva with leg kicks.
I'm saying he's a knockout artist, though. And
but he always throw leg kicks.
And even against,
you said that in the prediction that he throw leg kicks.
Yeah, he throw leg kicks, but not like this though. Like where there's his only thing he was throwing.
No, he wasn't. He was just missing the.
I don't have an issue with leg kicks. Only if you're setting up something else.
But that's what he was. If you watch the fight, every time he would throw a leg kick and it would make Sean's knees touch, Sean was more so concerned about keeping his hands up and worried about the big punch because he saw that coming. And so that's what was going on the entire fight, basically. So it just like Sean, you just can't throw one punch, man, and then say you won and the judges didn't do this and do that.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who won this one. This is too close to call. I can't just act like Jared just won decisively, and I can't act like Sean won decisively. It was one of the ones I feel sorry for the judges because they had a tough call to make.
But you got one person walking somebody down, and then they landed the bigger punches. The most significant punches of the whole fight was landed by one in a close fight. Who had the most significant punches?
Significant punches,
like the ones that, like Sean's head flew back several times, and it was like, whoa, he can't get hit with too many of those. So it's like if the fight is that close, and then I look at the person who landed the bigger punches, even though none of them landed like crazy, because obviously Jared got knockout power. So the fact that the fight didn't end in a knockout shows that he didn't land it too clean. But I think that the fight was close, but his punches had more power. And the fact that Sean didn't do nothing but throw one punch. But then we go here and look at the rest of the fights. Arman Tsarukyan pretty much dominated Damir. I mean, it was a good fight, but Arman kind of did what he wanted to do with the wrestling, man. It was nothing much Damir could really do.
A smart victory, that's all it was.
Yeah. But Damir, he fought a good fight. The 1-2 was good. It's just Arman is different, man. You look at his record, you got to realize the fight with Islam, he took on short notice, and that was a very competitive fight. That might be the only competitive fight Islam ever had in the UFC because he steamrolled Charles Oliveira, and Charles had a full training camp. And he had a competitive fight with Arman. And then the fight with Matthäus Gamrot, I don't even think Matthäus won that fight. I still think Arman won. So Arman, he's doing a good job, and Damir, he'll be back, of course.
The only thing is with Arman, I want to see more of his striking because him against even guys like Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, man, like your striking has to be better than that.
You don't show your striking against people you don't have to, because that's how you end up taking unnecessary losses, man. If you don't have to stand up with somebody, don't. Because he could have easily been on the receiving end of a knockout loss, keeping a fight standing up.
No, that's not what I'm saying. No, I'm saying he fought smart, but I'm saying if I'm going to bet on him against Justin Gaethje, I would like to see more striking. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but it's like you don't really pull that out if you don't necessarily have to. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you strike with Damir, who the biggest advantage he had in this fight was his reach and that long 1-2 that he got? Like, why would you play into that when you got a small reach?
Yeah.
I mean, Damir, he's still gonna be at the top. Then we got Amir, your boy Amir Albazi.
Man, it's you fighting somebody on your UFC debut, ranked number 8, man. I don't think this will happen again. I don't think the UFC would do this again in the future. Have somebody fight in the UFC, their first fight against somebody in the top 10.
But I think that they get stuck with those type of situations because you got to think about it. If somebody in the top 10, most other top 10 guys ain't finna fight you on a week's notice, man.
Yeah.
Because then now they finna be looking at it like, nah, man, because if I lose, that's going to be penalized on me when I was just at the house last week and now I'm fighting a top 10 fighter. And if I go in there and get beat, that's going to be on my record and you're going to hold it against me. So guys, they jump into the opportunity to fight in the UFC, and it was competitive until it wasn't. But Alexandro didn't look bad, though.
He just didn't pull the trigger. It's almost like he wasn't doing nothing. I know Amir wasn't doing a lot either in the first round, but at the same time, he's ranked number 8, and you're coming in, you're making your UFC debut, you got to go out there and try to knock him out.
But then if you open up, then this will happen. So it's like, it's weird because it's like, do you lose a decision where you try to play it, not play it safe, but you keep it competitive, but don't put yourself out there? Or do you not take a risk and then this happens?
Yeah, but don't wait till the third round to do that, man. And I don't know. He didn't look confident at all.
I mean, you got to realize this was Amir's third opponent in the span of a few weeks. So Alexandro, I don't think he had but a week to even prepare for the fight. True. So it ain't like he had a whole bunch of...
Well, he's making these fights look easy.
I know.
Real easy.
Hey, he's up there with, who next? Maybe Brandon Roval or somebody?
Yeah, he'll destroy him. He'll destroy Brandon.
And then we got the other fight. Speaking of somebody being destroyed, man, I told you, hey, if y'all go back and listen to that video that we made about this fight, we said it, man. Julian Erosa, his weak side is the left side. If your strike's coming from the left-hand side, it opens up for him. And Alex, he faked the punch and went for the high kick.
It was a sneaky left head kick. That's what it was. But this thing is, you fight with your hands down, you're susceptible to getting knocked out like that.
I told you, man.
And just
that's how it goes for Julian. And what happened is Julian, he'll get knocked out this time, and he'll go out there and look amazing for the next 2 or 3 fights, and then he'll get knocked out of nowhere again.
Yeah, Julian, he got some unnecessary losses on his record.
I know.
They shouldn't have.
In Song Wuchoi, I believe this was a left hook.
Yeah, it was.
Julio Arce left-handed.
Left head kick.
We called it, man. And Alex Caceres, low-key, is doing good, man. Got a little win streak going. So then we get down here to Drew Dober and Bobby Green, another fight. Go back and listen to the YouTube shorts. I told y'all. Drew Dober resembles, not all the way, obviously, but Dustin Poirier. Left-handed, big power, good striking. And
what was odd was at the end of the first round, Bobby was in full mount, and it was odd he didn't go for punches. That was so odd. Then Drew Dober, he's susceptible to the rear naked choke. Let's be real. He's a little bit susceptible. He's not really susceptible to a lot, but he's susceptible to like chokes on the ground.
Dude, Bobby Green is one of those fighters that got all the skills and all the talent, but something is missing, and he will not play the game the way it's supposed to be played. He get full mount, he'll stand up. He got opportunities to be in dominant positions, he'll stand up. He's rocking people and hurting them where he can knock them out, he'll start playing around, dropping his hands, showboating. It's the Kevin Holland thing, man. It's that thing that certain fighters do where they can have the fight in their hands and they'll give it away. And they got all these unnecessary losses, man. And this fight played out. At least Terrence took the fight on a week's notice.
Yeah.
Bobby had a full training camp, man, and we've seen him do this before, man.
And what was scary was his body language after the fight, because after the fight, his mindset was kind of like, well, I guess I lost. And it was a exciting fight, and the better man won. And it was like, bro, I can't see Islam or Habib losing like that, and well, I guess I lost.
And being happy.
Yeah, it was like, man.
We've seen Islam and Khabib mad when Tagir. Remember how they was looking at him in the corner when he lost that fight against Tim Elliott?
Yeah.
And they was furious.
Yeah.
They wasn't happy. I'm not saying don't be sportsmanlike. I understand you got to be a good sportsman, but there's a line that's crossed where it's like you're overly acceptant of losing fights that you should have won. Because we've been here so many times with Bobby Green. Yeah. I just can't bet. Now, I'll bet him on the next fight because I know he'll win it.
Oh, absolutely. He went by knockout.
He'll win.
I think he needs a sports psychologist, and a lot of people look down on that, but I think that's what they do. They help out athletes with like mental hurdles they have. Because I think the issue with him is, I think a lot of fighters have issues with like nerves before the fight. Because Anderson Silva used to throw up before the fight. So I think even Nate Diaz, they used to do before the fights. So I think that's how he deal with it, is like, well, if I fight exciting and I lose, I can blame it when I have my hands down. Yeah. Instead of go out there and trying to win.
It's so funny because he'll have people hurt and he won't capitalize. And then in other fights, he's allowed other people back in fights and it made it close, and then he loses a split decision.
I'm glad we're talking about this because one of the people left a comment on the Wonder Boy show we made about mental warfare. I'm glad we brought this up because the whole time Drew Dober was, let's shake hands. Am I going to shake your hand before the fight? And all that, and then how did the fight end? Knockout. And what happened after the fight?
Shaking hands.
No, yeah. After the fight, they shook hands too. But what I noticed after the fight that stood out was Drew said, "Oh, now I've tied for the most knockouts in lightweight history." Oh, interesting. Now you bragging about how many knockouts you got, but before the fight, let's shake hands.
But you know what's ironic about that? You know who he tied that record with?
Who?
The last person that Bobby played around with that he probably could have won and got knocked out against. The same exact way. I told you, man. And it's just that thing, man. Now, Drew Dober is doing good. Now, he did call out Jalen Turner. I don't see that fight going the way he think it's going because Terrence fight a little bit reckless, and he was going for that first round finish thing, even though he took the fight on like 3 or 4 days notice. And then Bobby Green, well, we already know. But Jalen is different because he going to have the reach. And
I can see him beating Drew Dober. I can see him going for the finish and getting tired. If Drew Dober can get these guys in second and third round, he can knock them out. Because these guys like Jalen, they high finishers. So I can see it, but Jalen has to stick to the game plan. You have to fight Drew Dober a certain way, man.
I'm going to tell you this, dude. Really and truly, Terrence and Bobby should have beat Drew, but they didn't do it the right way. There's a little bit more leeway with Terrence. But Bobby, there was no excuses. And Jalen, obviously his hands and his stand-up is going to be on a different level than Bobby Green's. He can do that to Drew Dober and hurt him. Man, Drew Dober got rocked several times in that Bobby fight, man. That fight should have been over after like 3 minutes. That fight shouldn't even gone to the 4th minute of the first round. Man, Jalen Turner gonna piece him up and then submit him, just like Brad Riddell.
But the way to beat Drew Dober is to take him down, though. That's what's so scary. Even when they announced this fight, I was like, hold on. And then you calculate the fact that Bobby Green, the way he fights, he don't fight the way he should. And then on top of that, like Islam. Look how Islam fought Drew Dober. Look how Benil fought him. That's really how you got to fight him.
But you got to realize with Jalen's reach, he gonna touch him up, hurt him, and then he gonna go for the submission on the ground. Like he not gonna stand up with him and give him the opportunity. Just like how he did Brad Riddell was the perfect example.
Yeah,
it's gonna be just like that. But Drew Dober is doing great though, and low key he has tied the record for the most knockouts in lightweight. So he done came a long way from being submitted and being beaten and counted out. So he doing good now. Then we get down to Michael Oleksiejczuk versus Cody Brundage. I got this one wrong. You called it McCall.
And people say Cody looked bad. I don't think Cody looked bad because they're fighters. Somebody gonna win, somebody gonna lose, and more than likely because Cody could have knocked him out. The way Cody fight that Hail Mary right hand, he catch Macau slipping, but at the same time, the fact that he went for it and Bobby Green didn't go for it. Bobby Green had Judoba hurt, and there was opportunities for him to get the finish
and played around,
and or at least hurt him more, and at least drop him, and then come close to it, and then say, "Well,
in the round on top, smother him,
or you
get
say,
him
well,
tired.
that's 10-8 round.
You don't let people get back in the fight over and over and over again. But McCall, he didn't let Cody back in the fight, and Cody did a good job, man. He took his back. He was going for opportunities. Low key, he was probably finna finish the fight, but when he took his back that last time, and he was kind of in between taking his back, and he could have gotten the full amount. McCall was smart, and he kicked off the cage, and that allowed him to get in his guard, and that was very good fight IQ and experience from McCall, because a lot of people, Cody would have submitted him.
And I don't think Cody prepared on his back a lot on this fight either.
He didn't.
That's one of the most unlikely positions that you would think. McCall on top of Cody.
And it didn't happen because McCall went for a takedown or anything, and no grappling exchange. It was pure kick off the cage, which we don't never see people do. We see people kind of do that here and there, and they always mess it up and they make it worse on themselves. But it's so odd that when Cody got to the ground, he was on his back. You didn't hear his corner giving advice for like half the time they was on the ground, and he was steady eating left hands. Now the thing is, McCall is a left-handed fighter, so while you might be thinking the punch is coming from the right side, they actually coming from the opposite side because he's left-handed. And you think Cody prepared to be on his back against a left-handed fighter dropping ground and pound like that with elbows? And
I think Cody's corner, they thought that Macau was going to just ride the clock out on top, and I thought they was thinking about round 2. We're going to start on the feet. Okay, what we going to do in round 2?
And we'll restart what we did on round 1, and then we won't make the same mistake again. We won't let him kick off the cage or whatever. But McCall wasn't going for it. And halfway through Cody getting finished, that's when his corner started giving advice. And then they was like, grab him and pull him close. Man, if you don't kick off this man, are you serious? It ain't like McCall is the jiu-jitsu expert. It ain't like you gonna kick off him, he gonna dive in on an ankle lock. This ain't Roman Delise. Kick off, man, and push off, and because once you start grappling again, you will have the advantage. You can get under the hips, and then you can be going for another takedown and get the back again. But they told him to tie him up or something, and then they waited after he was halfway knocked out, after he done ate all them elbows, to start giving advice. Then I remember Dustin Jacoby was in his corner, and he probably didn't know what to do when he got on the ground.
Interesting.
I started remember when they walked out, Dustin was in his corner. So I started thinking, I started processing, oh, Dustin don't really know what to do on the ground really here, because he don't really be on his back in his fights. And the fights that he has been on the ground, like for instance when he fought McCall, he took McCall down. And so
this is another fight where Cody didn't look comfortable in certain positions.
I think he looked comfortable up until the very end.
Not about comfortable in certain positions, like on his back he didn't look comfortable.
Well, that's the only position he didn't look comfortable.
No, I'm saying even he had fights before when he fought Darcha and when he fought Trey Sean. It's just certain moments he just didn't look comfortable. He won those fights, you know. I'm not trying to be a dead horse, but he didn't look the most comfortable. Like, you know, Cody likes to fight his type of way, you know.
Hey, man, McCall did a great job, man, of recognizing that moment of opportunity and going for it. That was experience right there. And so, good job from him. And then we get down to Corey McKenna and Cheyenne Lismas. I'm going to keep it a stack with you. Hey, I believe there could potentially be an argument to be made for Cheyenne. I like Corey because Corey put in work. But Corey got beat up on the feet.
Yeah, but you gotta understand, like, the second round, Corey was on top of her for 4 minutes. The third round, Corey was on top of her.
She was in submissions.
The third round, Corey was on top of her for 4 minutes and 44 seconds.
And I get that, but those stats don't tell the whole story of Corey was in some deep submissions. Cheyenne had her dead to rights a few times. Remember, Corey was in like a side mount, like side control, but her arm was caught up in Cheyenne's legs, and Cheyenne had her in some weird choke. I was like, what is going on? Like, she had Corey fighting off submissions the whole fight. Now, I do believe that by whatever slightest margins, Corey definitely won. But, man, it was very thin because I'm like, Corey, you're getting submissions and you're not doing nothing with it. No ground and pound, no submissions. Meanwhile, Cheyenne is beating you up on the feet. And then on the ground, she's threatening with all kind of fight-ending submissions the whole time. And all you doing is being on top, fighting out of submissions. That's one of those ones where if they had called Cheyenne's name by split decision, I wouldn't have been mad. But Corey should get another W, but she gonna struggle from here, man.
No, this is a ceiling right here. The thing is with Corey, I think she gave up that first round on purpose. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I think Amanda did that to Michelle Waterson, where she got taken down and then she set up in the second round to go for a takedown. But I think Corey did the same thing where she tried to take her down, but she didn't really have a lot of success taking her down. So I think Cheyenne was, okay, now I'm gonna stand up with her, I'm gonna piece up. And then the second round, now I'm gonna go 100% with takedowns and catch you off guard.
That's what she did. Because on the feet, it was not close. Corey got pieced up and hit clean several times to the point where I was like, hey, you might want to get this fight to the ground. And she was able to pull it off, but man, that was one of those fights for me where Cheyenne did everything right, man. And like even being on her back, it's like she landed the better strikes. She went for more submissions. She controlled the fight more on the feet.
You can't just end the round on your back. You got to be trying to get up or something.
Yeah,
man.
but you can't start the round off getting pieced up and having to rely on takedowns too
to
save you from getting knocked out.
And we were just talking about that, how a lot of MMA fights benefits the wrestler more because all they got to do is get in a dominant position and ride the clock out, even though they almost got 10-8 on the feet.
You got outstruck. Technically, you out-grappled the person with control, but they went for more submissions, which is the point of grappling, right?
Yeah.
It's like the stand-up. If you outstrike me and you just only throwing jabs, okay, hooks and uppercuts and stuff, they finish fights mostly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't just be okay with just doing the bare minimum of striking. So you shouldn't be okay with just doing the bare minimum grappling and thinking I won. Because technically, if we're looking at submissions in their fights, and Cheyenne had Corey in a lot of danger, I'm looking like, man, I don't know if Corey really won that like that, but we'll make a video about that one. Then, man, we get to this fight. This was a crazy one. Simmelsberger and Jake Matthews.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you this.
War, man.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you this, man. You gonna laugh. I thought Jake's gonna come back and get a knockout in the third round, and I said it like after the first round, I was like, is Jake gonna come back in the third round? I'm thinking between the first and second round. This smells like a Jake comeback victory knockout to me. But then Matthew, he's good at. He don't really absorb a lot of punches, and like he has underrated like striking defense, and he also has underrated top game in wrestling too.
And another thing is, I think his cardio is a little bit underrated because I told you, even in the Alex Morono fight where he basically got picked apart, his best round was the third round. When you would think that a fighter would have given up and they'd be down and out. That was his best round, and low key the second round was Jake's best round. He got dropped at the end.
See, Matthews actually said that after he knocked the guy out in 12 seconds. He said, I really didn't expect to knock him out like that. It just happened. He said, I actually trained to go to war for 3 rounds. So he actually trained to go to war. Them knockouts just come out of nowhere.
But man, look, he dropped Jake in every round, man. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, and then that second round, Jake put in his best round, and low-key it's weird because he won 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the round and then got dropped. And he lost. And I'm like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, it just looked like Matthews was just more athletic and stronger than him.
You talking about Matthew?
Yeah, Matthew Simmelsberger. It looked like he was just bigger. Like Jake Matthews, like he had the skills, but it just looked like Matthew Simmelsberger was just stronger than him. And you said it before the fight. You said Matthew Simmelsberger looked big and strong, which I think it looked like Jake was bigger than him, but I guess Matthew was just more powerful and stronger.
And I think Jake, what really messed it up in this fight for him was getting dropped early on in the fight, because the fight was going good. It was competitive. It looked like Jake was doing better at the beginning up until he got dropped, and he recovered well. And then he tried to come back in the second round, but then he did a great job, and then he got dropped again. And then he was doing good in the third round, then he got dropped again. I think he got dropped 2 times in the third round.
I think, and I hate to say this, but I think this is bad game planning from Jake Matthews, because if you're going to look at Matthew Simmelsberger, the people who beat him, even Chaos Williams was moving around, was circling around. They never was just in one spot like that. I guess Jake was thinking I can catch him coming in, and it was like, bro, you got to circle around. You got to fight Matthew Simmelsberger a certain way.
Well, he did circle around, but he was up against the cage. And so when you up against the cage and you circle, you block yourself.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, he didn't control the center of the octagon and move around and have space.
Yeah.
Because every time he got dropped, remember how he got dropped?
Yeah.
He was against the cage, he didn't have nowhere to go. And then you can't go left, you can't go right, you can't go back, and then you get dropped. So I think Simmelsberger was an underdog in that fight, and I don't think a lot of people was really expecting him to win like that.
I didn't think he was going to win, to be honest.
So I think without the power, he probably wouldn't have. I think that's very clear too.
He would have lost all the fights in the UFC without the power.
I'm saying that power saved him from losing some round, because he was losing the first round, dropped him. Losing the second round, dropped him. He was losing the third round.
But when you know you got knockout power, you can kind of like, you could plan accordingly with that and say, oh, well, I'm losing, I can just land the right hand.
Oh, yeah. And then we get down here, man, to Saeed Yakub, man. That fight was crazy because I actually picked Saeed Yakub to do what he was doing. And then it's so odd because he forced the submission. He basically beat himself because Saeed kept going for one thing, that guillotine. When he got out of that first time, when he barely got out of it, that first takedown, your defense should have been airtight. And for some reason, and what was up with all the times that he had his back and he wouldn't take his back?
Oh, yeah.
That was so weird. I'm like, dude,
I don't think that's not his game though. His game is control.
Your game is not taking somebody's back and rear naked choking.
But that's not how he fights though. I understand what you're saying though, but I'm saying we got to go by how these fighters fight in their previous fights.
I know, bro, but god dang, it's funny.
And then another thing is we talking about Saeed now, so it's like his body's so flexible, man. He end up on top of you,
man. Dude, no, there was times where Saeed, he literally was giving up back mount. He was giving up. Taking his back. He took his back one point and then he literally stood up, I want to say. It was crazy. You know what this fight reminded me of, man? You're going to laugh. Him losing this fight is right up there with Pat Barry and LeVar Johnson. When he had side control and then he stood up and then subsequently got knocked out in a fight that he was dominating. Yeah. And I'm like, you literally gave the fight away.
And that's why I told you before the fight, I told you that, I'm going to be honest, I didn't predict Saeed Yacoub was going to lose like this. But at the same time, I said before the fight that I'm not too impressed with Saeed Yacoub striking. He doesn't show it enough. And I think that was the issue because you controlled him against the cage. That's when you show your striking. And then you mix up the grappling again with the striking. The whole fight was him just trying to grapple Saeed.
Saeed was swinging up against the cage a few times. He was dangerous. It was looking like...
He was, but he wasn't as dangerous as he was before. He was just throwing in wild kicks.
But bro, we see Saeed, he spin one time and the fight is over. We see this. One spinning elbow. One Hail Mary spinning elbow, it just seemed to work for this dude. This dude is like the Aaron Rodgers or the Tom Brady as far as like down to the wire. He can make something happen right when you think it's over. He just got that type of ability. And Saeed Yacoub, man, he just really just threw that one away, man.
It make you think that them guys like Barcelos and Douglas, they're better than what we think.
Yeah.
Because they was able to go out there and go 3 rounds with Saeed. So
yeah. So Saeed, man, he moves on and Saeed Yacoub, man, this is going to be a tough one because he had a good competitive fight with Umar until he made these mental lapses. And then he had a good fight with Saeed Nurmagomedov, and then he dropped the ball.
No, what happened was, what he did, he took Ronnie Lawrence down 10 times. So I think that was in the back of his head, now I'm a wrestler. He's never really just been like a pure wrestler like that. And he was thinking, well, I can just take Saeed down for 3 rounds. Saeed is not Ronnie Lawrence.
Man, gave the fight away.
And then he had the submissions too. He had them counter submissions, the guillotines. That's what made the fight so interesting because it's like you can't really just keep taking Saeed down like that.
The thing was Saeed was exhausted.
Oh yeah, he was.
Like he was definitely done. He was definitely done. He was down. He was out. What's odd is that he went for that same move 2 or 3 times in a row, and Saeed Yacoub fell for it.
It looked like he was tired too because after the fight he was kind of just sitting down, and then
he just got choked out. You got to realize he just got choked out. So of course he was going to look tired.
Yeah, true.
He ain't had no air. And then, man, you know, Rafa Garcia lost 20% of his blood. Did you know that?
Wow.
Cub Swanson posted on Twitter.
You remember I told you that during the fight? I said, the thing is, you want to stand him up and you want to do something to stop the bleeding. But at the same time, is that fair for the opponent? Because then it's kind of like, well, he's bleeding in the middle of a fight. But then again, you can't let the other fighter who's bleeding bleed out and lose blood. So I was like, what do you do?
Man, he lost 20% of his blood. That was after the fight. It had to be another 5% in the cage when it actually happened. He hit a artery. Mahashate hit an artery.
Oh my God.
And man, but Rafa, man, he had a good tough fight. Went out there, man, and played it smart. He never let Mahashate get his rhythm going. And we said this during the fight. Mahashate is like a counter striker.
Yeah.
But because Rafa is not a striker, he wasn't able to counter strike.
Yeah.
And it basically left him kind of waiting, and then he would end up getting out grappled and dominated essentially. And
then not only that, but Mahashata, his go-to moves wasn't working. The knee wasn't working.
It make you think, man, if he had a better arsenal of things to work with, because if you made this man lose 20% of his blood and you still lost the fight,
why you weren't throwing head kicks and front kicks and stuff?
He kept throwing flying knees. He kept missing flying knees. You know what? He was thinking that Rafa was going to duck in for a takedown and he was going to catch him with a flying knee.
I thought he was going to do it.
That's what he was thinking. But you got to throw a jab, man. You can't sit back and just think you're going to catch everybody. Everybody not Steve Garcia. Some people, man, you're going to have to work for that knockout, man. I know you beat one of the people who is like barely in the UFC, probably really shouldn't be there, probably.
Hey, when he showed like that, because he's still a dangerous knocker artist, he showed he has like a Korean Zombie type ceiling where he's going to make it far, but he's never going to beat nobody in the top 5 because of that.
And you know what's so odd? That even after the fight, even though they was bloody and tired, it looked like Mahashate never really even emptied the tank. Does that make sense? Yeah. It looked like it was so much more he probably could have offered, but he just...
I think he was just tired from the grappling too, man.
Oh yeah, it exhausts you. Yeah, Rafa did a good job of getting him tired. And
that was a Kamaru Usman high IQ type of performance from Rafa. I'm not really a big fan of him, man. I don't think he's gonna win any more fights after this. But I hate to say it, man, because them guys in the top 10, you can't take them down. What you gonna do to Saruki and them guys, man?
You gotta have some striking. But man, then we get down here, man, and Brian Bowder, he took a fight on short notice, so it ain't the worst thing in the world. But man, we're not gonna have a tough time getting fights. Hey, he finna fall into that Damir, Saruki, and who was the other people? Shavkat.
Yeah.
He finna fall into that category where people not finna want to fight you, man, because dude, this was insane.
Hey, what's gonna happen with him? He gonna get more knockouts too, because people gonna be looking forward to wrestling, and he gonna throw that right hand.
I think that's what he caught Brian Battle with, because Brian was worried about the takedown, and he was so worried about not losing that next round the way he had just lost the previous one, and then all of a sudden, the right hand, and all you hear is boom. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Why was Brian fighting like that? It's almost like he wasn't throwing kicks as much as he should have. Because
why would you throw kicks against Renat?
No, I understand, but he was kind of on the outside, just waiting, and it was kind of like, man, look, at least if you throw kicks, man, you might catch him with a head kick.
Well, he was the one in there. He felt how strong he was, and once you get taken down once, and you're not strong enough to get back up, you really hesitant to do anything else.
Yeah.
And then what happens is it ends up stalling you out, and then you don't do nothing, and then you end up getting taken down again, which is what you didn't want to happen in the first place. So now. Yeah. You was trying to avoid getting taken down and controlled, and so you didn't do nothing. And now, because you did that, you get taken down and controlled, and you didn't give yourself a chance at maybe changing the course of the fight by throwing some type of strike or something that could have helped you. So he got kind of puzzled, kind of like deer in the headlights type deal. But he was tough, but boy, he took a beating. And it got worse.
I hate to say this. I know Brian is tough as nails, but midway through the third round, it looked like Renat was making Brian re-guess his career. I hate to say this, man, but he was like, man, I want to be a fighter.
I think that
I want to go back to school.
You know, Brian took the fight on a week's notice, and I think that with a full training camp, he still would have gotten beat.
It would have been more competitive, though.
I don't think it would have been more competitive. I think it would have just been less of a beat down on him. Like, he definitely would have still got beat. I don't think it would have been competitive. Like, he wasn't going to be out striking Renat, and he wasn't going to be out grappling him. But I think that he would have looked better in the fight, basically. He would have had better moments or better opportunities. But what was odd was there were certain things, we talked about this with Anthony Pettis. People started beating Anthony because they found this position to put him in fights where I'm not going to stand up with you, but I'm not going to let you be flat on your back. I'm going to put you up against the cage and kind of have you up there. That way, I don't have to worry about these triangles and these guillotines, and you know what I'm saying? And Renat did a great job, man, of putting him in that type of position, which is actually very smart because he only got 2 fights in the UFC. And we see UFC fighters who still don't maximize that position. It's only a few people who do that, and it's normally champions. Am I lying? It's normally champions or fighters at that level who really use the cage like that to their advantage. The Khabibs, Daniel Cormier's, the Kamarus. It's a certain type of fighter. So Renat, man, hey, and Brian Battle will be able to shake back, man. He'll be able. They'll give him somebody, man. But Renat looked doggone good.
It's like they should have teleported him inside the top 5.
Yeah.
After that performance, up there with Bilal and the boys.
Yeah, he looked like he one of them guys.
Because his striking, you could argue he's striking better than Bilal's, because Bilal's striking ain't really the best.
Yeah, it's just the way he mix it up.
And he might be able to catch them boys too. He might be able to catch a Bilal with the right hand.
And that power he had, I'm like, oh my goodness.
He a nightmare matchup for Leon.
Oh yeah. But then we get down here to Manel, Cape, and David Dvorak. Manel just did whatever he wanted to do, man. But he did get taken down in the first round, but then he went for like a Hail Mary Kimura to actually flip David over, and he almost got him.
It's like he separated his shoulder almost.
He did something to it, because I don't think David was really just throwing nothing with that one afterwards. And I think he was in a sling in the post-fight. In his Instagram post, he was in a sling. And then David, he was tough, man.
You know what I realized? We said Manel, sometimes he don't pull the trigger. If it's one person who don't pull the trigger more than him, it's David. Because if you look at his fight, sometimes he just kind of sit back and just wait. It's like, bro, you're not going to win fights fighting like that, man. You got to take more chances.
Yeah, and he was very tough, man. He started getting dropped in the second, third rounds, though, man. It was bad. But one thing that saved him is the fact that Manel wants these flashy knockouts. So when he had him hurt, he was trying to do the flashy thing. And so if you hurt somebody, you go for the flashy move and you miss it, you give the other person time to recover. And David was able to keep the fight competitive. So good job from Manel. Then we get down here to Sergey. Pretty much what I thought was going to happen, man. Just
out-grappled him. He fought.
Yeah.
It's like for the first time, Sergey actually stuck with a game plan, don't it?
Yeah.
Because none of his prior fights, he looked like he had a game plan. He was out there just throwing bombs, getting random takedowns. Now it looked like he had a game plan against Journey, and I was wrong.
Yeah, man, because with Journey, man, like I said, I haven't really just seen too much from the skill set to make him dangerous like that. That made me concerned against Sergey, because I know Sergey is one of those guys who can definitely drop the ball, but you got to be a certain type of fighter to make him do that. And for the last thing, man, we're gonna look at these fight night bonuses. Drew Dober was able to get a $50,000 bonus. It looked like Bobby Green got one as well. Man, he lucky because
he could have got 3 checks then.
But at least he got the $50,000 one. And then Alex Caceres, yeah, he deserved that one. McCall, he did a great job. He deserved that one. I don't know, man. Renat, I mean, I know it was pretty dominant. I know they looking for finishes.
Renat didn't get one?
No.
But who gonna finish Brian Battles though? Like, I don't understand that. He might go his whole career without getting.
And I mean, Saeed did have a good one. And Matthew Simmonsberger had a good fight. It wasn't a finish, but it was a good fight. So, hey.
I think Renat had the best performance out of everybody, if I'm going to be honest.
I think he struck fear in everybody in the welterweight division with that performance. That's why I think he deserved a bonus, because he put on a display. He let them know he on the way. So
he got Neil Magny scared right now. No, I'm just playing.